Welcome to another episode of Office Hours with State Representative John Hampton. I am John Hampton. I'm delighted to be with you again. My guest today is leading the charge to keep Simsbury safe. He is the steward of public safety when it comes to fire. He's a distinguished gentleman, hardworking, tireless in his commitment to the residents of Simsbury. He is our fire chief, James Baldis, and I'm delighted to welcome him to the program today. Thank you so much, Chief.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. Please call me Jim.
Yes, that was so formal, but I had to give you your full middle initial.
I understand.
But thank you for being here today, and I wanted folks to know that it is 70 years plus of the Simsbury Fire Department, now called Simsbury Fire Company, correct?
Correct. Actually, Simsbury Volunteer Fire Company, which is the volunteer organization that we have, and we also have the Simsbury Fire District. And they are two very distinct organizations that provide for fire protection for the town.
How are they different?
Well, let me start with the Fire District. The Fire District back in 1944 was formed through a legislative process that allowed the Fire District to be a taxing agency within the town of Simsbury. And they provide for the fire equipment, which means the fire stations, the apparatus, all of the personal protective equipment, tools, and so forth necessary to provide for the extinguishment of fires and other emergencies. The fire company, which was formed at the same time in 1944, was made up of all volunteer members of the community who got together to put together the volunteer fire company, and they operate separate from the fire district. They have their own membership, their own company, own rules, regulations, and so forth. And to this day, all of the firefighting elements of the fire protection in the town of Simsbury still volunteer, even though the fire district still maintains its role as providing all the equipment and so forth. The firefighting manpower is all provided still by volunteers. From the youngest junior firefighter to even myself as the chief is still actually a volunteer position.
Yours is a volunteer position?
Yes, it is.
Oh, good to know. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have no paid staff?
We have no paid staff for firefighting.
Okay.
The fire district does have paid
Okay.
staff in terms of the fire marshal's office, our dispatching, maintenance, and so forth. But as far as the firefighting elements, it is all a volunteer organization.
Well, that makes us appreciate your efforts all the more. And, almost being a townie myself, are you a townie? Did you grow up here?
Well, actually, I wasn't born here.
Okay.
However, we moved here at a very young age, and all my memory is here. So
All
I
right,
have no
that
memory
counts.
from where I lived before. So thank you.
So of all my almost 50 years, growing up in Terriffill used to have a department, right? Its own.
Correct.
And would Weatog have its own in other districts or just Terriffill?
No, basically when the fire company was formed back in '44, it started out with basically just the main fire station at the time, and even that wasn't built in '44, it was built in the early '50s. But we started to build other fire stations, and Terriffill was its own fire company. Actually, it started before the Simsbury Volunteer Fire Company did.
What year would that have been?
It was, I believe, 1938.
Wow.
But don't hold me to that exact number, but I believe it was in the late 30s. And the Terriffill maintains its own volunteer fire organization for many years and worked side by side with Simsbury. We had a mutual aid agreement for many, many years working with each other in terms of fire protection for the town boundaries per se. But they took care of the Terriffill section, and we kind of took care of the rest, if you will. And then in 1987 is when basically the financial realities of running a fire district in a small village of Terriffill just became the reality of the fact that they just couldn't continue to afford what was required today in today's fire service. And so because of that, there was a merger where the Terriffill Fire Company ceased to exist as a firefighting agency, but joined with the Simsbury Volunteer Fire Company to basically create our sixth station.
So we have the main station, and then what are the others?
Okay, we have the main station. Then we have the Weatog station, which is located in the southern part of Route 10 on Hot Meadow Street.
Okay.
That's where our training facility is located also. People might know from the building in the back that we train at all the time. We have our Bushy Hill Fire Station, which is located on the corner of Canton Road and Bushy Hill. We also have our West Simsbury Station, which is out next to St. Catherine's. People will know it out there. We then have our Firetown fire station, which is located in the corner
Yep.
of Firetown and Hoskins. And we have our station, obviously, in Terriffill.
Okay, so a total of 6. How many men and women serve in as volunteer firefighters?
Right now, we have a complement of 85 firefighters.
Wow.
And that incorporates a small complement of junior firefighters as well as our regular members, as we refer to them, who all will respond to the emergencies as needed in the town. We have had a high water mark as high as 110 firefighters at one time, but that number will fluctuate. It fluctuates with the times in terms of people's ability to volunteer and commit their time. But we still maintain a very, very strong organization in terms of numbers, and comparing ourselves of comparable size in terms of our population and our exposure in terms of property and value and so forth. We do very, very well be able to provide for the safety of the community.
Is there an ideal number you'd like to see on a perfect day?
To be honest with you, I'd like to see it in that 80 to 100 range.
100,
If I could
yeah.
have 100, that would be
Yeah.
ideal for me. But if we can maintain it within that 80 to 100 of active members, then I'm very satisfied.
How does one become a volunteer firefighter? And can anybody do it? I'm assuming of all your ranks, you've probably got many different people, insurance agents, farmers, I think that's the great thing about the history of volunteer fire companies is people leave where they are doing their jobs, right?
Exactly.
And they jump into and suit up. I've seen them run over in their cars. And what does it take to be a volunteer firefighter?
Well, basically, what it takes is a heart.
Yeah.
To wanting to help your neighbor, to wanting to really help the community in regards to trying to help them when they're having a bad day, as we oftentimes refer to
Yeah.
it. And once you've made that decision and you want to, basically make a little bit of a time commitment to serving your community in this capacity, we can take care of everything else in terms of the training and the equipment and the knowledge, the know-how, everything that a person would need to know to keep themselves safe while they're doing, a potentially dangerous job. But you're absolutely right as far as, the makeup of the fire service today. And Connecticut, as well as throughout the country, the majority of firefighters are volunteers still. Yes, there are a lot of paid departments out there, but the majority of firefighters in the state of Connecticut are volunteers still. And that's a tremendous help in terms of the community and in terms of keeping the cost of that particular service, at a minimum. Because you're not necessarily paying for that manpower to be in the stations, prepared and trained and so forth and ready to go. And it's because of the 71 years of generosity of the community, and
Sure.
it's the neighbors, it's people like yourself and others, who've decided, you went one direction in terms of your service to the community in your position today. We have others, thankfully, who've made those decisions to come to us and
Yeah.
come to the fire service. And to spend those times and spend their time training and being prepared and responding as they do. And we're so grateful for that.
Well, Simsbury has a great, history of volunteerism, as you know, and you have a amazing department made up of some pretty incredible folks. You've got, what's the youngest age that you would have? You've got junior firefighters.
Right. Our basic membership starts at the age of 18. However, we do have a junior program that starts at age 15.
Okay.
And what that 15 to 18 year group allows us to do is to introduce them into the elements of the firefighting, kind of bring them into the family, if you will,
Ease
have them
in.
better understand what's going on. Through our efforts working with the school system, we've actually even been able to provide them some school credit for that service, which has worked out quite well. And we're over 25 years of having a junior program, and many of our firefighters today in very high positions as officers started as those juniors. So we look at that as probably one of our best recruitment tools that we've ever had.
How old is your oldest firefighter, without mentioning names?
Well, actually, we do have a mandatory retirement.
You do?
Yes,
Okay.
and that is the age of 70.
Okay,
At one
wow.
time, it was 65 years
70.
old. But we do allow, as long
great.
as they're able to pass, required physicals, which we do require on an annual basis. We do have a mandatory retirement at 70 years old. So that would be our oldest.
So you sign up, you say, I want to volunteer. What kind of training does the person go through?
Well, we have basic firefighter training that we offer to the member. Now, that training is actually provided off-site at the Hartford County Regional Fire School, which is
Yep.
located over at Bradley Field at the Connecticut Fire Academy. The fire district pays for that. It requires a couple of nights and some Saturdays over approximately a 4-month period of time
Wow.
for the firefighters to go through. It's about a 180-hour course. It's pretty intensive,
I
but
bet.
they get all of the basic skills in terms of the knowledge as well as the hands-on skills for dealing with firefighting, dealing with ladder work, hose handling, rescues, and things of that nature.
So it's classwork, but textbook,
Yep.
but also hands-on mock fires, mock events,
Exactly. And
using equipment,
Right.
complicated equipment.
It can
mean,
be. It can be, but
lot
we
of-
try to make it simple,
Yeah.
in terms of that. And once they are completed with their training, then they actually, because it's through the regional school system, they go through a state test where they actually become certified under the state of Connecticut certification laws that allows them then to be classified as a certified firefighter 1. That's a standard firefighting certification. So all of the firefighters that join Simsbury ultimately go through that process and become state certified firefighters in that capacity. And then we encourage and will pay for additional training as the firefighters would like it. But again, it's a volunteer organization, so we have to be very aware of the individual's time and how much time they want to commit to training and extra time that they may have to do that. And fortunately, many of them have. They've gone on to firefighter 2. All of our officers, we have 21 officers that we have within the department, and over 90% of those officers are certified state instructors for firefighting. And that's been a huge, huge benefit for us because all of our officers, come to the table having the knowledge of not only the firefighting skills and knowledge, but they can apply it in a teaching environment.
Sure.
And so that allows our training efforts to be top notch. And I will tell you that we have an excellent, excellent training program. And that really has, I think, set us apart in the Valley and in the state in
Sure.
terms of how Simsbury's been viewed from a fire protection perspective is because of our training and also our diversity in terms of what we have to be trained for.
Now you have to pass a physical, you said?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
And you have had women growing in your ranks, right?
We sure have. Yep.
How many women now of your troops?
Right now we have 6 women. We'd like to
Great.
see more.
Yeah.
But we do have, the diversity continues to build.
That's great.
The fire service has been historically, a masculine type of a service, if you will. But, we do encourage, more and more in that regard in terms of women joining. And we have had, very good luck.
Do you actively recruit every
Yes.
year?
We do. A lot of it's word of mouth, people
Yeah.
again, being a community-based organization, recruitment is important. And it's obviously easy for someone to pick up the phone and call if they want to become a firefighter. But oftentimes it's the questions of, what is, as you say, what does it take to be a firefighter? What's my commitment? What do I have to do? And many times it's the neighbor who's talking to one of our
Yeah.
firefighters who becomes interested and involved and they want to join. Our junior program, like I said, has just been a great asset for us in getting the members to come on board at a younger age, understanding that level and that commitment, and getting some of their education away, taken care of early, and that way, they're ready to go as soon as they turn 18.
Now I see that you just sent out your annual appeal, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you get most of your funding, or how is your funding? How do you get the funding that you need to do your job?
Well, basically, on the funding aspect of it, and probably it's a good time to also explain the distinction between the fire district and the fire
Yes.
company. The fire district is funded through our citizens, taxpayers, which
That's right. So it's a separate
we're very
tax bill.
grateful, and we're also very proud of the fact that we have a very low mill rate.
Yeah.
And that everything that we own in terms of the fire district is paid for. There's not a single debt out there that the fire district has. So, for example, when we opened up the brand new main station,
Yeah, beautiful building.
we opened it up having it completely
Yep.
paid for 100%. So every piece of fire apparatus, equipment, and so forth is all paid for. And that's been because the way that the district was evolved and started, it started with basically at a point in time where it could be fiscally sound and work towards that end. And as we've maintained that strategy ever since. Now the fire company, as I said, is a separate entity. And the fire company does have its own fundraising, and we use the monies that we do get from fundraising. And yes, this appeal is our biggest fundraiser that we have. And those funds are used to support the fire district with extra purchases of equipment, We've purchased things like AEDs. We've purchased the years back the Jaws of Life, the Hearst tool as it's often referred to.
Infrared cameras, maybe.
The infrared cameras or the thermal imaging cameras, and things of that nature that we've used, the monies that we've been able to get through donations to help support the fire district's purchases. We have the ATV now, which is an all-terrain vehicle that allows us to get up into Talcott Mountains to other areas that we didn't have before. The fire company helped fund that, and so the funds go towards that. We also use that funds too to provide for some basically family events, if you will. We have like a picnic that we provide for the firefighters and their families every year to show the appreciation that we have, and so the funds will oftentimes go to things of that nature too, but only because the fact that they're all doing this for nothing. They're not walking away from spending 2 or 3 hours at a fire, and expecting to see something coming in the form of a check at the end of the day.
No, and we realize every time we hear that siren that these people may not come home.
Exactly.
From an event to
Exactly.
their families.
You just never know.
They're leaving their jobs, their families, their homes.
Right.
And but speaking of fundraising, I have to give a shout out to your ladies auxiliary that does a great job, and we all remember their yeoman service during the 2011 storm. But they do fundraising too, correct? They do that golf tournament.
Yep.
I'm assuming does that go to them?
That's a joint effort between the ladies auxiliary and the fire company.
They're terrific.
And it is fabulous.
Yeah.
And when we talk about numbers, when we talk about the numbers of firefighters that we have, the 82, that doesn't count the auxiliary, which is actually a subset of the fire company. They themselves have 30 members.
Wow.
And so when you really start pooling together, the number of resources that the volunteer fire company comes to the table with, it is a lot. But they have been absolutely fabulous, and they provide some recent fires that we had this past summer with the heat being in the 90s and some significant fires. They're immediately there providing for the firefighters in terms of refreshments, in terms of some snacks, and anything that they can do in terms of providing for that. Plus, they can help the people who may be actually involved, the families and the firefighters, by offering a place of comfort, some place to basically be, making sure that they're also given some refreshment or something just to hold them over. And they've been very, very active in that role. And their fundraising goes towards scholarships. It goes towards providing for burn camp financing that they do. They promote and provide for burn camp attendees to go. So
That's
they
wonderful.
do just a fabulous job.
Now, Chief, when did you become a firefighter?
1975.
Okay, 1975. And when did you become chief?
This is my 11th year, so 2004.
Did you always want to be a firefighter?
I can't say that I always wanted to be.
You weren't one of those kids who was...
No, I wasn't one of those that hung around the firehouse all the
Yeah.
time. My dad was a firefighter in
Yep.
Massapequa, New York. And then we moved to Connecticut, or he moved to Connecticut, and I was born in Norwalk, at Norwalk Hospital. We lived in Westport at the time, and he joined Westport. But I have no recollection of him actually ever being a firefighter. But he talked about it, favorably. And as I, grew up and got older and so forth, and I very much became entrenched with Simsbury and knowing this was going to be the place that I wanted to spend my life, it was, what could I do for the community? And it was through some acquaintances that I had that were firefighters that said, you really should join the organization. It's a great organization. They do wonderful things, just good people, and you really feel good about what you do. So talked to a couple people, went down to a meeting and got voted in, and
Here you
started
are.
my career. So
How has it been as chief? What's your typical day? What's your job as chief? It's really keeping everything on track, right?
Well,
Keeping
basically, yeah. Fortunately, I have being chief is certainly a big responsibility in the fact that you're responsible overall for the readiness of the fire department to respond to whatever emergency it can be. And that's the thing. We don't know when it's going to happen. I know that tomorrow, is going to be, another day, and we know that the sun's going to come up in the morning and so forth. But beyond that, you don't know when the emergency is going to strike, and we have to be prepared for whatever emergency that can be.
And it's not just fire. It
Oh,
could
no.
be plane crash here, or 9/11 happened.
Something of that nature, or
Yeah.
automobile accident. Something happens on the mountain. Something
Yeah.
happens in the river. There's so many different things that we have to be constantly prepared for. So it's my job overall, obviously, to make sure that preparation is there, and it can't be done without without good people. And that's our biggest asset right now is the fact that we have wonderful volunteers who are willing to put the efforts in terms of the officer staff and the membership staff, who are willing to step up to the plate to make sure that the training is there, those training sessions are organized, they're well run, and so that we are in fact prepared. It's working obviously very closely with the fire district. The fire district appoints me as the chief of the department. And so it's working very closely to ensure that we have the necessary resources in terms of the best type of apparatus and the best type of personal protective equipment that we possibly can have, and the tools that we need to make sure that when we do get that call, we're able to effectively mitigate the emergency as safely and as quickly as possible.
And that everything is maintained, up to date, available, when everything hits the fan,
right,
your firefighters are ready to go.
Right, exactly.
So a typical firefighter, does he or she say, I can only give 10 hours a week, and you work it that way? Or how do you know who's going to respond?
Well, it's not scheduled. We don't have a scheduled time that people are available. The fire service has continued to evolve in the manner of we've fortunately have had enough people available to respond to all of our incidences. We have not had to revert to trying to do a scheduling program or even consider at this point of having to go with possibly paid firefighting staff, especially during the day. The daytime is certainly the leanest time, but we're fortunate that we have members who some work
locally
overnight. No, but they work overnight shifts and they're available during the day. We have people that are local. We have plumbers and, as you say, plumbers and lawyers and other people who are able to leave their place of work and respond. And so we're fortunate in that regard. Is there always that question mark? Yeah, there's always a question mark, but we continue to monitor that on a regular basis in regards to our response staffing. And so far, we've been doing okay.
So if I'm a firefighter and I happen to be in Norwalk today and the alarm goes off, I just don't respond, to the alert. I mean, do I get notified on a beeper or something that I'm a firefighter in Simsbury and there's something happening and I'm in New York or something? How does Chief Baldis know that John Hampton won't be responding?
Well, again, communication's important, and our firefighters communicate very well with their station officers to know when people are going to be around and not around.
Okay.
We have a general sense, when it's a family. So you kind of know when your family's going on vacation, they're going to be out of town, and that type of thing, I guess, is the best way to describe it. So you have a general sense of when people are available and when they're not.
Okay.
And so, there are times that we know there's going to be a greater number of people, maybe because of an event or a holiday or something that's taking place. We know there's going to be a lot of traveling. And then we'll do some extra communicating with the regular, with the rest of the membership. Okay, who's going to be in town? We're going to be light in terms of some of our, maybe some station may be lighter than others. So we just need to make sure that we're responding accordingly, and that's worked out great.
Well, Simsbury, thankfully to you and to all the responders, is so well prepared, and I used to serve on the Public Safety Subcommittee. I don't know if a lot of people at home know that there is a Public Safety Subcommittee that all the leaders of the first responders get together every other month, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much to meet around a table, police, EMS, fire, health district, CLMP, Board of Ed. It's great. You all get together. You plot, plan, strategize, say, okay, Septemberfest is coming up, or this latest technology is coming, should we look at it? And really to galvanize our strength, or your strengths as first responders. I think people need to know that you work really well with the police and the EMS, and it's just such a well-oiled machine that I witnessed doing, and so many people, that was your shining moment in 2011, was that October storm. I mean, God bless you. It was just a fine example of how thankfully we are to you guys that should tomorrow something else happen, that we're ready, And
I think that's an important part, and I think that readiness and working together, and the advanced preparation that we've done, the Public Safety Committee, in terms of working together in that regard, certainly was probably one of our biggest challenges since the '55 flood in many ways, in terms of how this impacted the community. And even though Simsbury was probably one of the hardest hit, I think we were the best prepared. And I think we probably handled it the best.
Absolutely.
When you talk to some of the other towns and some of the issues that they had, and I think a lot of that is to the fact that we had very, very good communication with all the aspects of emergency services and public services, the Public Works Department and others.
Public Works, yeah, another
absolutely,
key part of it.
to make sure that we were as prepared as possible to make sure that if people needed help, we could get them that help somehow, and we were prepared to do that.
And I think you're always fine-tuning too, because every event
Oh, sure.
you're going to learn
We
that
learned, yep.
next time we'll do this even better. And so we're so fortunate to have you in Simsbury and as our chief of the fire company. And I want to thank you. And Senator Witkos and I put in a citation honoring the Simsbury Volunteer Company for your 70th anniversary.
Oh, wow,
that
thank you.
he and I wanted to present, and I'm going to read it. It's a General Assembly official citation introduced by myself, Representative Hampton, and Senator Kevin Witkos. Here, be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to the Simsbury Volunteer Fire Company 70th anniversary. In recognition of the Simsbury Volunteer Fire Company for protecting our community for over 70 years. Since 1944, the SVFC has provided extraordinary public safety to Simsbury residents with uncompromised devotion to duty. The dedicated volunteers of this department have always risen to the occasion, putting the lives of our citizenry first, delivering first-rate emergency services with courage, compassion, and valor. We pay tribute to the SVVC's commitment to the community. We remember the fallen of the department with reverence and hold in high esteem each and every firefighter that puts themselves in harm's way each day through their heroic efforts to aid those in need. The entire membership extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for continued success. So I'd love for you to accept that and share it with the whole department.
Oh, you bet.
And
we
thank
will be
all the
doing that.
volunteers, and you guys do such a great job. And I wanted to thank you for being on the show. Time went so fast we could have you back for part 2. But please, God bless, good luck as you continue your good work, and we couldn't be more grateful to have Jim Baldis as our fire chief. And happy 70th anniversary. I hope we're going to whoop it up for 75.
We sure are. We're already planning.
You're planning
We are planning
a big celebration. So thank you for being here, and thank you at home for joining us for this episode of Office Hours with State Representative John Hampton, and we'll see you again another time. Thank you.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.